I'm a 28-year-old guy living in the Midwest, and I never thought I'd find myself writing something like this on the internet. But I guess some things are easier to admit to strangers than people who actually know you. I thought I was doing everything right. I thought I was in a relationship where both of us were building a life, supporting each other, making sacrifices, dreaming big together. And now, I feel like I've been punched in the gut and kicked while I'm down. Her name is Rachel. She's 26, brilliant, driven, and always had this fire in her that made you want to root for her. She wanted to be a nurse, and I wanted her dream to come true more than anything. I know it sounds corny, but I believed in her the way people believe in superheroes when they're kids. She came from a rough background, and she was determined to build a life that didn't involve waiting tables or stressing over rent. I knew she had the brains and the heart to do it, and I wanted to be the guy who helped her get there. So I worked, all the time, 3 jobs at one point. I'd get up at 5 a.m., drive to a warehouse job that left my hands raw and my back screaming, then swing by a diner for lunch shift, and finally clock into a retail job at night. I was running on maybe 4 hours of sleep a day, living on instant noodles and whatever snacks I could grab in passing. Sometimes I skipped meals entirely, telling myself it was fine because Rachel needed her books, her tuition, her study materials. I told her not to worry about any of it. I told her to focus on school. I'd figure out the rest. It got worse. Well, worse in a twisted way. There were nights when she had exams first thing in the morning, and I knew she'd never sleep if she had to pay rent and groceries on top of homework. So I slept in my car. Yeah, parked outside her apartment, sometimes with the heater on in winter or the air blasting in summer, just so I could make sure she got a solid 8 hours before a big test. I'd stay awake scrolling Reddit or listening to podcasts to keep from freezing or overheating, trying not to think about how much my body ached. All of it felt worth it because when she passed her tests, she'd smile like she'd just won the lottery. And I'd feel like I'd won too, even if my paycheck was just a fraction of what I needed to survive comfortably. She never really knew how much I sacrificed. I never wanted her to. Love, right? It's supposed to be about support, not guilt. I wanted her to shine without feeling like I was holding her back. And she did shine. She was relentless. Library sessions that lasted all night, clinical hours, group projects, exams that seemed impossible. She handled it all with this mix of exhaustion and grace that made me fall for her again and again. I kept thinking, one day, all of this will be worth it. One day, she'll graduate, and we'll sit back and say, we did it. And I actually did picture it. I imagined the graduation day 1,000 times. I'd have flowers ready, big ones, maybe ridiculously big, like the kind that make people give you side-eye for spending too much. I wanted to be in every photo she took, even if just in the background, because I'd earned the right to celebrate with her. I thought we'd walk out of that auditorium hand in hand, laughing, snapping selfies, telling each other it was finally over. I imagined buying her a little cake afterward and taking her somewhere fancy, just to mark the end of a long, grueling chapter. I imagined us together, happy, finally. I even took the day off work. All 3 jobs, I called in sick, lied, whatever. I didn't care. This was her day, and I wasn't missing it. I got the flowers, camera charged and ready, nerves buzzing like it was my own graduation. I showed up early, found a spot near the stage, and waited, and waited, and waited. And then, I saw the photo. It was on Instagram. Her profile, her smile, radiant, holding the biggest bouquet I'd ever imagined giving her, standing with my brother. My younger brother, Jason. His arm was casually wrapped around her waist like he was the one who had carried her through this hell of nursing school. I blinked, scrolled. Maybe it was some fluke, some weird angle. Maybe the camera just made it look like they were closer than they actually were. But then I saw the next one. And the next. His hand was no longer casually on her waist. It was lower, on her stomach, and she wasn't pulling away. She was leaning into him, laughing. Caption, finally. We did it, babe. Couldn't have done it without you. And my stomach dropped so hard I felt it in my throat. I kept scrolling, hoping, praying that this was a joke. That maybe she'd just been celebrating with the wrong person. That maybe it was staged, something silly. But every new post, every story she tagged, only made it worse. My brother, the one I trusted more than anyone, the one I'd helped raise, the one who knew exactly how much I did for her. I didn't know if I should cry, scream, vomit, or disappear. I just sat there, phone in my hand, feeling my world collapse piece by piece. And somehow, amidst the fury and heartbreak, there was this cold, unrelenting realization. Everything I sacrificed, every meal I skipped, every night in my car, it didn't matter. Not to her, not to him, not to either of them. I don't even know how I'm going to face her, or him, or the rest of the family when they find out. Right now, all I can do is sit here, staring at a screen, wondering when reality became this kind of nightmare. I didn't sleep that night. Not really. I tried, but my brain refused. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the photo. Rachel smiling, holding the flowers I had meant to give her, Jason's hand on her stomach like he owned a part of her that was supposed to be mine. I kept thinking, maybe it's not real. Maybe they're just joking around. Maybe I'm overreacting. But deep down, I knew I wasn't. By morning, my phone was blowing up. Calls from friends, texts from family. I ignored them all. I couldn't explain what I was feeling. How do you tell people that the person you gave everything for, your money, your sleep, your body, your soul, is standing in photos with your brother in a way that shatters everything you believed about love and trust? I went to work like a zombie. I couldn't focus. Every box I lifted, every customer I rang up, every plate I served, I was just going through the motions. My coworkers noticed. One of them asked if I was okay. I muttered something about being tired. Truth is, I was beyond tired. I was broken. Finally, around noon, I decided I had to see her. I had to talk to her, even if it killed me. I didn't want a dramatic scene in front of everyone at graduation. I didn't want to ruin her moment in the eyes of her classmates. But I needed answers. I needed honesty. I drove to her apartment, heart hammering like it wanted to escape my chest. When she opened the door, she looked surprised to see me. Her hair was still a little messy from last night's celebration, but her smile was radiant. And I realized then just how cruel life could be. How someone could look like the person you loved more than anything and simultaneously feel like a stranger who had stabbed you. "Hey," she said. "You didn't come to graduation?" I froze. I was planning to," I said. My voice cracked. I stopped myself. I didn't know how to start. "How do you say, I gave you everything, and you gave it to my brother instead?" She tilted her head, confused. "You didn't." I swallowed, trying to keep my voice from breaking entirely. I saw the pictures, Rachel, on Instagram, with Jason. Her face went pale, and suddenly I felt like I'd stepped on a live wire. "It's not what it looks like," she said quickly. Too quickly. "Not what it looks like." I repeated, voice louder than I intended. "Rachel, his hand, on your stomach. Your caption. We did it, babe. Who else could that be for?" She opened her mouth to speak, then closed it. For a moment, there was silence. The kind that makes your ears ring, like the whole world is holding its breath for something terrible. I didn't mean for you to see it like that," she finally said. But her eyes were looking everywhere but at me. "Not mean for me to see it." I whispered. "Rachel, I've been living like a ghost for 2 years while you chased your dream. I slept in my car. I skipped meals. I worked myself to the bone so you could have what you wanted. And you chose him. Over me. Over everything I did for you." She flinched, and I hated myself a little for the intensity of my words. But how else do you express the betrayal of loving someone so completely, only to realize they don't see you the way you see them? "It's complicated," she said. Her voice was soft, almost pleading. Jason and I, we didn't mean for this to happen. It did. Complicated." I laughed bitterly, the sound hollow and jagged. "You know what's complicated? Working 3 jobs, surviving on scraps, sleeping in my car, and doing everything I could to make sure you could have the life you wanted. That's complicated. And this is betrayal." Her eyes finally met mine, and there was fear there. Not guilt, not remorse, but fear. Fear of losing me, fear of the fallout, fear of consequences. And in that moment, I realized I didn't care anymore. My love for her had been unconditional. Yes, but unconditional doesn't mean blind. "I can't do this," I said. My voice was low now, shaking with something I hadn't allowed myself to feel fully until now. Raw, bone-deep anger mixed with heartbreak. "I can't sit here and watch you smile at my brother while I've been carrying you for 2 years. I can't be the guy who gave everything only to be erased. You made your choice, Rachel, and I guess I just need to accept it." She tried to reach for me, but I stepped back. I needed space. I needed air. I needed to remember that I existed outside of her world, even if it was hard to remember right now. I left her apartment without another word. The drive home was quiet except for the occasional groan from my engine and my own ragged breathing. I didn't call my brother. I didn't message him. I didn't even think I could face him. Right now, I needed to process that he, my own flesh and blood, had become a part of this betrayal too. When I finally got home, I sat on my bed, scrolling through her feed again. Every picture, every story, every tag, it all screamed the same thing. They were a unit now, a team, and I was just me, alone, exhausted, used, invisible. I realized then that the person I had been, the guy who gave everything without hesitation, no longer existed. And maybe, just maybe, that was for the best. Because if I stayed the same, I'd never survive this. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if I confront my brother or if I cut all ties. Right now, I'm just existing, trying to remember who I am outside of them, outside of her, outside of the betrayal that feels like it's dug into my bones. All I know is that I'll never forget that moment. The photo, the smile, the hand on her stomach. And I'll never forget what it feels like to realize the person you die for doesn't even see you as part of their world anymore. The next few days were a blur. I didn't answer texts. I ignored calls. Even my 3 jobs felt like a punishment I couldn't quite endure. Everything reminded me of her. The coffee cup she used, the playlist she made me listen to, the empty space where she should have been when I came home. And the worst part? My own brother, Jason. I kept imagining him laughing with her, holding her hand, smiling that smug little smile he always had when he knew he'd gotten away with something. I tried to talk to my friends, but how do you explain this kind of betrayal without sounding insane? Oh, by the way, my girlfriend of 2 years just decided to leave me for my younger brother on my graduation day. And yes, I did everything for her, and she still ghosted me for him. It sounded ridiculous even as I said it out loud. No one could understand. And honestly, part of me didn't want them to. I ended up driving aimlessly, just getting in the car and going, trying to drown the noise of my thoughts in the hum of the engine. I ended up at the lake near my place, always a quiet spot, somewhere I could just stare at the water and think about what went wrong. And I couldn't stop thinking. Why? How? Was any of it real? Had I ever mattered to her at all? Or was I just a stepping stone, a human mattress to sleep on while she climbed to wherever she thought she deserved to be? And then it hit me. I had enabled it. Every sacrifice I made, every sleepless night, every skipped meal. I had been too blind, too wrapped up in her dream to notice the warning signs. The flirty texts I saw once and brushed off. The way she would talk about Jason's accomplishments in a way she never did with mine. I ignored it because I wanted to believe in us. I wanted to believe she loved me as much as I loved her. And now, all that energy, all that devotion, had been funneled into someone else's arms. Someone who didn't care, at least not like I did. I started thinking about my brother differently. Jason had always been cocky, always a little jealous, always wanting attention, but I never thought he'd take this. Not her. Not like this. I wanted to confront him. I wanted to yell, to throw things, to hurt him in the same way he hurt me. But part of me also knew that wouldn't fix anything. That would just make me another version of him. Selfish, cruel, petty. So I stayed quiet. At least, I tried to. Then came the family dinner. My parents had invited us over, celebrating Rachel's graduation. I didn't want to go. I couldn't sit in the same room with her while she smiled at Jason like nothing happened. But my mom called me personally. Her voice was tight, careful, like she already suspected something but didn't want to say it out loud. "We really want you to be there, honey. Rachel worked so hard." I didn't show up. I told them I was busy with work, even though the truth was I couldn't bear it. My stomach churned at the thought of seeing them together, my family unknowingly supporting the betrayal I was living through. I wanted to scream at my parents, tell them I had sacrificed everything for her, and now she's with my brother, but I didn't. I couldn't, because deep down, I knew that screaming wouldn't bring back what I lost. It wouldn't erase the picture of them smiling together. I started thinking about all the little things I'd given up for her. Birthday dinners skipped so she could study. Vacation days I didn't take because she had exams. The money I saved for a future we were supposed to build together. And now, all of that felt meaningless. Every penny, every sleepless night, every moment I put her above myself had been repaid with betrayal. I started isolating myself. I stopped going to the diner job except when I had to, stopped going to the warehouse, stopped picking up shifts I didn't need. I slept more, not peaceful sleep, just heavy, dreamless blocks of it. I avoided mirrors because I didn't recognize the person looking back. I had spent so much energy on her. I had completely forgotten who I was. And now I realized that the person I thought I was, the guy who loved unconditionally, who sacrificed without hesitation, was gone. One night, I checked her profile again. New photos, new stories. They were at a fancy restaurant this time. Champagne, smiles, the kind of intimate, couple-wide photos that make your stomach twist. And I realized something terrifying. I didn't even want her back. Not really. Part of me wanted to punch him. Part of me wanted to cry. Part of me wanted to call her and scream. But at the core of it, I didn't want her anymore. I wanted me back. And that was the hardest part to accept. For 2 years, I had lived for her, and now I had to figure out how to live for myself again. I didn't know how. I didn't know if I could. But I knew that if I kept watching them, my brother, the girl I loved, my life slipping away in Instagram posts, I'd never heal. So I deleted her. Deleted Jason. Deleted all the photos, all the reminders, every piece of their new life together from my phone. I didn't block them yet. I wasn't strong enough. But I removed the constant poison. The next morning, I woke up, and the sun felt different. Not better, not healed, but different. A tiny crack had opened in the wall I'd built around my own pain. And for the first time in days, I felt something resembling clarity. I don't know what happens next. I don't know if I ever forgive my brother, if I ever look at Rachel the same way, if I ever trust anyone again. But I know that for the first time since all this began, I'm thinking about me instead of them. And maybe that's a start. It took me a few weeks before I could even think about stepping outside without feeling like the world was full of reminders of her. Everywhere I went, I imagined her there. Grocery store aisles, the diner I used to work at, even the street corners I'd driven past 100 times with her laughing in the passenger seat. I realized I couldn't keep running from it. I needed to reclaim my life, or at least start trying. I started small. I went back to the warehouse, even though I hated it. I went back to the diner, even though every coffee cup reminded me of her. But this time, I did it for me. Not for her. Not for anyone else. I started eating properly, even if it was just a sandwich and some fruit. I started sleeping in my own bed instead of crashing in the car when I worked a double. It felt strange, almost selfish, but I realized it wasn't selfish. It was survival. Then there was Jason. I couldn't avoid him forever, and honestly, the thought of facing him made my stomach churn like it would never stop. I wanted to yell, to punch something, to make him feel a fraction of the betrayal I felt. But I also realized that anger wasn't going to fix anything. Anger wasn't going to get back the years I'd spent sacrificing for Rachel, and it sure as hell wasn't going to make her any less gone from my life. I called him one night. Just a simple, "We need to talk." He sounded casual on the phone, like everything was fine, like he hadn't just taken something that wasn't his to take. When I showed up at his apartment, the sight of him smiling at me, confident, smug, completely unbothered, made my hands shake. "Sit down," he said, and I did. I didn't know why. Maybe I was still too shocked to do anything else. I stared at him for a long time. "Why?" I asked finally. My voice was low, dangerous. "Why, Rachel? Why like this?" He shrugged, leaning back. "I don't know what you want me to say. She's smart. She's amazing. And we just clicked." "Clicked?" I echoed, my voice rising. "Clicked? She's my girlfriend. I've done everything for her. Do you even understand what I gave up for her?" He looked uncomfortable for a second, like maybe he knew he'd crossed a line, but then he shrugged again. "You can't control her, man. You can't control love." I felt like someone had ripped my chest open. "Control her?" I said, incredulous. I didn't want to control her. I wanted to be with her. I wanted to support her. I wanted us to build something together. "And you just swooped in." "I didn't swoop in," he said, voice defensive now. "It wasn't like that. You were suffocating her, man. You think you know what's best for people, but sometimes you don't." I froze. "Suffocating her? You think sleeping in my car, skipping meals, working 3 jobs for her dream, that's suffocating?" I laughed, bitter and hollow. "That's love, Jason. That's sacrifice. That's putting someone else above yourself because you believe in them." He looked away, and I could see the guilt flicker in his eyes, brief and fleeting. But he didn't say anything else. And in that silence, I realized something. He didn't have to. My anger, my heartbreak, my grief, they were mine, not his. And no apology would ever undo the damage that had been done. I left his apartment without another word. On the drive home, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Clarity. Not peace. Not happiness. But clarity. I didn't need to chase them. I didn't need to confront them anymore. What I needed was me. My life. My future. My dignity. And so I started rebuilding. Slowly. Painfully. I signed up for night classes at the local community college, something I'd always wanted but put off because life was too busy. I joined a small gym to get out some of the tension and frustration I'd been carrying. I started hanging out with friends I'd neglected, people who cared about me for me, not for the drama or the sacrifices I made for someone else. Every step was hard. Every time I saw Rachel's posts online, every time Jason tagged her in some stupid story, I felt that old knot tighten in my chest. But instead of letting it consume me, I let it fuel me. Fuel me to do better, to be better, to exist for myself again. One evening, a friend noticed me staring at my phone again. "Dude," he said, "stop torturing yourself. You've done everything you could. They're not your problem anymore." And he was right. They weren't my problem. I had been living for them for too long. Every sleepless night, every skipped meal, every sacrifice, it was over. My life wasn't about Rachel or Jason anymore. It was about me. I started thinking about the future in a way I hadn't allowed myself to in years. Maybe I'll move. Maybe I'll change jobs. Maybe I'll finally take that vacation I always dreamed about. Maybe I'll even open myself up to someone new someday. Someone who sees me, really sees me, and doesn't just treat me like an invisible stepping stone. And yet, the pain doesn't disappear. Not completely. Sometimes I still see her face in my mind, laughing with him, and I feel that hollow ache in my chest. But it's no longer the same. The ache doesn't define me. It reminds me that I survived it, that I can survive it, that I am stronger than the people who try to take me for granted. And that's the thing about betrayal, about heartbreak, about love gone wrong. It hurts. It burns. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about yourself and the people around you. But if you survive it, if you face it and refuse to let it destroy you, it teaches you something priceless: who you are when no one else is looking. And for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm starting to remember that person. The person who isn't defined by love given and stolen. The person who isn't erased by betrayal. The person who still has a future, even if it's scary, even if it's uncertain, even if it's completely alone for now. It's been a few months since everything fell apart. I've started sleeping in my own bed every night without thinking about her or Jason. I've started eating full meals without guilt. I've started going to work without replaying their smiles in my head like a broken record. I'm not healed. I don't think anyone ever really heals from betrayal like that. But I've learned how to exist without letting it consume me. I haven't spoken to Rachel. I haven't spoken to Jason. I think about reaching out sometimes, but I know it would only reopen wounds. They don't get the luxury of my forgiveness. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And for the first time, I realize that's okay. I'm not responsible for their choices, and I'm done trying to fix what they broke. I've started focusing on me in ways I never allowed myself before. I enrolled full-time in my classes, something I'd pushed aside, while supporting her dreams. I'm actually enjoying learning again. I'm thinking about career paths I never considered because I was so busy trying to prop up someone else's life. I'm taking long drives without listening for her laugh in the passenger seat, without imagining them together. It's still painful, but it's becoming manageable. The hardest part wasn't losing her. The hardest part was realizing my brother could do something so cruel. Family, supposed to be the people who have your back no matter what, can be capable of devastating betrayal. I think about my parents, too. I haven't confronted them about what happened. Maybe I will someday, maybe I won't. Right now, I'm learning that sometimes it's healthier to protect yourself than to demand explanations from people who may never give you one. One night, I drove past the lake where I used to sit for hours, thinking about what I lost. I parked and looked out at the water, the same way I used to when I felt like the weight of the world was crushing me. But this time, I didn't feel completely hollow. I felt something new: resolve, maybe even hope. I realized I had survived the worst heartbreak imaginable, and I was still standing. That alone is worth something. I won't lie. Sometimes the loneliness hits me hard. Sometimes I scroll through my phone, tempted to peek at their posts, to feel the sting of jealousy all over again. But I stop, because every time I do, I remind myself, I am not defined by what they did to me. I am not defined by the sacrifices they didn't appreciate. I am not defined by heartbreak. I am my own person. And that, finally, feels like enough. I've started seeing someone new, cautiously. A girl from my class. She's smart, funny, and doesn't expect me to put her dreams above my life. I'm taking it slow, learning to trust again, learning to believe that love doesn't have to come with pain that destroys you. It's strange, but it feels good to have someone in my corner. Not to carry me, not to replace anyone, but just to exist together as equals. I ran into Jason once at a family event. He smiled at me, and I felt the old anger flare for a second. But I didn't bite. I didn't yell. I didn't let him see that I was still wounded. I simply nodded. That's all I could do. That's all he deserves. And in that moment, I realized something. Closure isn't about confrontation. It's about choosing to move forward while they stay stuck in the past. Rachel? I don't hate her. I won't say I forgive her because I don't know if I ever can, and maybe I don't need to. I just don't matter in her life anymore. And that's okay. I matter in mine. Finally, in ways I hadn't allowed myself to before. I think back to all the sacrifices I made, all the nights I slept in my car, all the meals I skipped, all the money I spent on books and tuition and exams. I don't regret the love I gave. Not completely, because that love wasn't wasted. It taught me something I couldn't have learned any other way. It taught me about resilience, about boundaries, about the importance of valuing yourself as much as you value others. It taught me that love without reciprocity can destroy you, but surviving it can make you stronger than you ever imagined. So now I'm moving forward. I'm building a life for me, not for anyone else. I laugh more, I sleep more, I invest in myself more. And somewhere deep down, I know I'll be okay. Maybe one day, I'll even tell this story without the sharp sting of betrayal twisting my gut. Maybe one day, I'll look back and see it as the moment that forced me to finally prioritize myself. For now, I focus on the small victories. Getting through the day without thinking about her. Eating a proper breakfast. Laughing at a joke someone tells me in class. Driving past the lake and not collapsing into tears. These small victories are mine. They're proof that I survived. They're proof that I can still live, still love, still believe in something good after all this pain. And that, I guess, is enough for me. If you made it all the way to the end, thanks for sticking with me. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the story, consider subscribing to the channel and giving the video a like. It helps me share more stories like this. Thanks.